Search the Scriptures. We're on study number 11 in 2 Samuel today, and this covers 2 Samuel 16:15 through 17:29, and we're going to answer three different questions here. The first is this: what are the reasons for Ahithophel's first piece of advice to Absalom, and what do you think would have been David's first thought, and is this the key to David's rather defeatist attitude? And from 2 Samuel 17:1 through 14, what was Ahithophel's counsel? Was it good? And if so, why was Hushai's advice? Why did it win the day? And thirdly, how was David rewarded for his previous generosity? And notice who Shobi was. So let's look at 2 Samuel chapter number 16, beginning with the 15th verse through 17 and verse 29. 2 Samuel 16:15. Meanwhile, Absalom and all the men of Israel came to Jerusalem, and Ahithophel was with him. And when Hushai the Archite, David's confidant, went to Absalom and said to him, "Long live the king, long live the king." Absalom said to Hushai, "So this is the love you show your friend? If he's your friend, why didn't you go with him?" Hushai said to Absalom, "No, the one chosen by the Lord, by these people, and by all the men of Israel. His I will be, and I will remain with him. Furthermore, whom should I serve? Should I not serve the son? Just as I served your father, so I will serve you." Absalom said to Ahithophel, "Give us your advice. What should we do?" And Ahithophel answered, "Sleep with your father's concubines, whom he left to take care of the palace. Then all Israel will hear that you have made yourself obnoxious to your father, and the hands of everyone with you will be more resolute." So they pitched a tent for Absalom on the roof, and he slept with his father's concubines in the sight of all Israel. Now in those days the advice Ahithophel gave was like that of one who inquires of God. That was how both David and Absalom regarded all of Ahithophel's advice. 2 Samuel 17. Ahithophel said to Absalom, "I would choose 12,000 men and set out tonight in pursuit of David. I would attack him while he's weary and weak. I would strike him with terror, and then all the people with him will flee. I would strike down only the king, and bring all the people back to you. The death of the man you seek will mean the return of all. All the people will be unharmed." This plan seemed good to Absalom and to all the elders of Israel. But Absalom said, "Summon also Hushai the Archite, so we can hear what he has to say as well." When Hushai came to him, Absalom said, "Ahithophel has given this advice. Should we do what he says? If not, give us your opinion." Hushai replied to Absalom, "The advice of Ahithophel has given is not good this time. You know your father and his men. They're fighters, and as fierce as a wild bear robbed of her cubs. Besides, your father's an experienced fighter. He will not spend the night with the troops. Even now he's hidden in a cave or some other place. If he should attack your troops first, whoever hears about it will say, 'There's been a slaughter among the troops who follow Absalom.' Then even the bravest soldier, whose heart is like the heart of a lion, will melt with fear, for all Israel knows that your father is a fighter, and that those with him are brave. So I advise you, let all Israel from Dan to Beersheba, as numerous as the sand on the seashore, be gathered to you, with you yourself leading them into battle. Then we will attack him wherever he may be found, and we will fall on him as dew settles on the ground. Neither he nor any of his men will be left alive. If he withdraws into a city, then all Israel will bring ropes to that city, and we will drag it down to the valley until not so much as a pebble is left." And Absalom and all the men of Israel said, "The advice of Hushai the Archite is better than that of Ahithophel." For the Lord had determined to frustrate the good advice of Ahithophel in order to bring disaster on Absalom. Hushai told Zadok and Abiathar the priests, "Ahithophel has advised Absalom and the elders of Israel to do such and such, but I have advised them to do so and so. Now send a message at once and tell David, do not spend the night at the fords in the wilderness. Cross over without fail, or the king and all the people with him will be swallowed up." Jonathan and Ahimaaz were staying at En-Rogel, and a female servant was to go and inform them, and they were to go and tell King David, for they could not risk being seen entering the city. But a young man saw them and told Absalom. So the two of them left at once and went to the house of a man in Bahurim. He had a well in his courtyard, and they climbed down into it, and his wife took a covering and covered it over the opening of the well and scattered grain over it. No one knew anything about it. When Absalom's men came to the woman at the house, they asked, "Where is Ahimaaz and Jonathan?" The woman answered them, "They crossed over the brook." The men searched but found no one, so they returned to Jerusalem. After they had gone, the two climbed out of the well and went to inform King David. They said to him, "Set out and cross the river at once. Ahithophel has advised such and such against you." So David and all the people with him set out and crossed the Jordan. By daybreak, no one was left who had not crossed the Jordan River. And when Ahithophel saw that his advice had not been followed, he saddled his donkey and set out for his house in his hometown. He put his house in order and then hanged himself. So he died and was buried in his father's tomb. And David went to Ahanaim, and Absalom crossed the Jordan with all the men of Israel. And Absalom had appointed Amasa over the army in the place of Joab. Amasa was the son of Jether, an Ishmaelite, who had married Abigail, the daughter of Ahash, and sister of Zeruiah, the mother of Joab. The Israelites and Absalom camped in the land of Gilead. And when David came to Mahanaim, Shobi, son of Nahash, from Rabbah of the Ammonites, and Machir, son of Amiel, from Lodibar, and Barzillai, the Gileadite, from Rogelim, brought bedding and bowls and articles of pottery. And they also brought wheat and barley, and flour and roasted grain, beans and lentils, honey and curd, sheep and cheese from cow's milk for David and his people to eat. For they said, "The people have become exhausted and hungry and thirsty in the wilderness." Question 1. What are the reasons for Ahithophel's first piece of advice to Absalom, and what do you think would have been David's first thought? Is this the key to David's rather defeatist attitude? Well, Ahithophel's first piece of advice was for Absalom to sleep with his father's concubines, on the rooftop no less. So he gave this advice as really a direct order from the Lord. It was the Lord that put this advice into him, because this advice fulfilled the prophecy of Nathan, that one would sleep with the wives of David in broad daylight. So David's first thought would no doubt have been to remember the prophecy of Nathan. And there's no doubt that that was very hard for David to deal with. It probably did help to aid in his defeatist attitude. Second question from 2 Samuel 17, 1 through 14, was Ahithophel's counsel good, his military counsel concerning pursuing David? And if so, why was it Hushai's advice that won the day? Well, Ahithophel's counsel was probably very good, in that it would take much less time than it did to muster the forces suggested by Hushai. The advice of Hushai gave to send a stronger fighting force took a lot more time to unfold, and therefore it gave him more time to send messengers to David to give him an advanced warning. And Hushai's advice won the day because he appealed to the strength of David, but really the David of old, and that put fear in Absalom, so it helped the aid to save David. But the David that was on the run was not the one that Absalom needed to fear. Absalom needed to fear the power of the Lord. The David that was fleeing was a David that was weak and a David that was defeated. He did not need to fear him from a military standpoint at all. Hope this study's been a blessing to you today. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. May God richly bless the rest of your day.